Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here, back with another video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. And yeah, so this is another one of my videos about football. Hope some people out there would. Oh yeah, I don't know what happened there. My stomach was rumbling for some reason. Anyway, yeah, so I thought I'd talk about some of my goals for football again, as I do. And as an Italian football fan, Serie A, for those who don't know, is the Italian league or top tier Italian league, the equivalent of the EPL or English Premier League for Italy, or La Liga in Spain. So it's a top flight basically of Italian football. And I just want to share my goal about how or why I think Italy should try and play more, or Italian football, including Serie A teams and even Serie B and lower league teams and grassroots teams, should play younger players, and maybe even the national team as well, working with the league. So I think there are a lot of benefits, which I hope to talk about actually, for hiring or playing younger players. For instance, one, say that longevity. So if you hire someone if you play players who are younger, I think that they can last a bit. They can last longer, and with Italian players, like, develop the academies and like try and get more younger players, then obviously if they sign those younger players, then they can train them, but also sell them off for a profit if necessary, or also save money on buying new players as well, in whichever order you want to put it in. So they can either save money instead of having to buy players from other teams or other leagues, and stroke, or also they could sell them off for a profit when they get a bit older. The other thing is, I think a lot of people talk about experience, but I think the way to get more experience is, like, the more they do or the more they practice is the more experience they'll get. So I think obviously as footballers get older, especially, because it's a sport where it's more physical, they have to their stamina goes downhill. So I think playing older players means that they won't last as long, and then when you have to replace them with newer players eventually, like when they get to 34 or 35, then it's much harder to bring those newer players through. So I think Italian football in the past especially had a really bad way of, like, just only wanting older or experienced players, which means you probably, for one thing, you've got to spend more money to buy them from other clubs if you don't develop them yourself. And the other thing is, which goes back to the points I was raising earlier. But the other thing is, yeah, eventually they're going to get too tired, and then you're going to have to replace them, and then it's going to cost more money, but or it's going to take them longer to develop. So I'm a great believer in developing young players. I think it's better to have an old head on young shoulders. I think that's the right way. An old head on young shoulders than the other way around. So I think the more experience they can have from the youngest possible age, I think the better, because struggling to explain it, but yeah, I think overall it's much better than having older players. Even if you don't win as much initially, like, over time you're probably going to win more as well, which is obviously, well, I say as well, but that's the main reason why, as a competitive person myself who wants to see Italian teams do well as well, Celtic, I would love to see younger players come through, and I think that'd be much better. I'm sure it would be much better. And I think also the teams that have done well have showed this, like when Spain or Holland or Germany have produced younger players, or even England, they've done a lot better than when they've when they've had older players, and have to the newer players coming through will take longer to develop. So I think the more game time they get from a younger age, I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I think there's lots of advantages, I'm sure, even ones I haven't thought about. But I think again, they'll get more experience. So if you get a player to play when he's 16, by the time he's 26, he'll have 10 years experience. Whereas if you wait till he's 26, in order for him to get 10 years experience, he'll have had to play till he's 36. So again, hope that makes sense. So yeah, I think it would be great for Italian teams to develop younger players for the future of Italian football as well, not just the present, or mainly for the future even. And hopefully that will help Italian teams to dominate. So I often think, like, it'd be great to see Italian teams have wealthy owners like Man City or Chelsea do in the Premier League, or PSG does in France. But I think if they do, they should have a mixture of buying players like Messi or Mbappe or Haaland or whoever else, but at the same time also make sure that they do spend probably at least 10% of the club's budget on an expenditure on, or even budget itself, on, or even revenue itself, on whichever is more perhaps, on, or as much as they can basically, on youth development and infrastructure and opportunities like football academies, footballs, training equipment, and things like that. Maybe even like provide local people, like say for instance Juventus, which is based in Turin, could provide local people in Turin with football boots, socks, and basically football kits and opportunities to come play football, even possibly from poorer backgrounds as well, which as well as being ethical by helping them in the long term, it could also benefit the club back as well, because hopefully it will develop more players, which I'm sure will benefit the club overall, hopefully. And so yeah, so I think developing younger players would be an excellent thing, just like what Barcelona did in Spain. And I think if they do buy new players, I think those new players should be also people who are like brand ambassadors, but also people who help with the coaching of younger players, so it helps them develop, but maybe even a mix of older and younger players, so the older players can teach the younger players and pass on their skills. But I think the other thing is, like, a lot of players, I know Italy just won the European Cup, which is excellent, I think, but I think that players, when they get to like 33 or 34, probably should, generally speaking, retire, because then it gives younger players a chance to come through, and they, instead of playing, maybe they could coach those younger players so they can pass on their skills and experience, but also those younger players will be able to use their pace, and also as they get older they'll be able to play in those roles. And I think it's similar with the economy. I think if you give young people that opportunity, in the long term there's going to be less younger people who are unemployed or disadvantaged, or who get involved in crime or things like that, because they'll have opportunities and things to do and hope. Another thing I think Italy could do is like cut crime. Cut crime by getting more people to play football, getting people into football. So that means they have something to do, which hopefully will mean they won't get into crime. And also, like, football could be a reward. Like, so if you behave well, you get to play football and things like that. So hopefully that will encourage more, especially young people, to get to avoid getting into trouble in the first place. And as they say, prevention is better than cure. But yeah, I think developing younger players, as I say, it's something I'm really passionate about. I think, again, like, if clubs like Inter Milan or AC Milan get bought by wealthy owners, as I've talked about before, like, I'd love them to be bought out by wealthy owners, or at least have sponsors and investors and lots of funds to buy great players. I think they should spend, as I say, at least 10% of the revenue, or even the budget, or whatever, or whichever's more, and again, as much as money as possible, on at least 10%, maybe even more, on developing youth academies and opportunities for especially local youth, which I hope will benefit Italian football. Another thing I think they should do, actually, I nearly forgot this point, is I think that all senior games in Italy should have at least 3 under 20, under 21, or even under 20 players. So they should have the youngest possible side. So I think a lot of time when people play football, they want to win competitions there and then. So sometimes they'll go for more experienced players. And I think sometimes it's game management or prioritizing future games. Obviously, you still want to win those trophies eventually. Like, it's no point in just developing young players and then never winning the trophies. But I think over the long term, hopefully you will win those trophies more. So I think playing more attacking football would be another great thing. Also training younger players, as I say, and always having at least 3 under 21 players, and then hopefully eventually the trophies will come. But yeah, I'd love to see in all senior games, both for the national team and the league, and even lower leagues, Serie B and Serie C, and grassroots levels, they should play at least 3 under 21 players, or even under 20 players, as I say, and especially in friendlies where it's not that important, because it would be more important to train those players for the more important games rather than win those actual games. Hope that makes sense. And I realise this video has gone a bit long, So I might make some more when I think of more ideas. And I am out. Peace and love.